I decided to escape the chaos of city life last summer. I wanted to find peace in nature. I thought a week-long solo camping trip in a secluded national forest would be perfect. I drove for hours to get there, surrounded by towering pines and a calm lake. I was ready to recharge and find some inspiration away from my screen. When I arrived, I set up my tent. It was quiet, just me and the woods. As the sun dipped down, I made a campfire and roasted marshmallows. I loved the sounds of crackling wood and the smell of smoke in the evening air. But around midnight, I heard something strange. Laughter echoed through the trees. I thought it was just other campers at first. It didn't worry me. But then the laughter faded. When it came back, it sounded haunting. I felt uneasy then, but I brushed it off. Maybe it was just my imagination. The next day, I explored the area. The trees were tall and the air felt fresh. It was beautiful, but something gnawed at me. I kept glancing over my shoulder like I was being watched. That night, I returned to my campfire, trying to enjoy the stars. Then I noticed shadows moving just beyond the firelight. I told myself it was a trick of the light. My heart raced, but I didn't want to admit I was scared. By the third day, things got odd. I woke up and found my gear slightly rearranged. My backpack was a few inches to the left, and my water bottle was on its side. I thought maybe I had done it without realizing it, but deep down I felt something off. Each night the laughter grew louder and closer. I began to dread the night. On the fourth night I sat awake by my fire, jumping at every sound. I kept thinking maybe I should go home. Then I saw something. A figure stood among the trees, facing me. My heart stopped. Was it a person? I blinked and it was gone. The cold crept in and goosebumps ran down my arms. I tried to laugh it off, but I felt sick. I couldn't wait for morning. But that laughter didn't stop. Each night it came back, more insistent, like it was teasing me. I finally decided to pack my things and leave. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders as I drove away, my heart lighter than it had been in days. But when I glanced back at the trees, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me still. As I pulled onto the main road, I heard a soft laugh echo from the woods. I turned my head so fast my neck cracked. Nobody was there. I kept asking myself if it was all in my mind or if something was really out there. I wasn't sure, and those thoughts have haunted me since. The following days seemed to blur together. I returned home, carrying the heavy weight of confusion and fear. My friends noticed I was different. I forced smiles, but couldn't shake the feeling I had brought something back with me. When I lay in bed, I kept hearing the laughter echo in my mind. It felt like a memory that wouldn't fade, a distant song stuck on repeat. Weeks passed, and I thought about that trip often.
One Saturday, I decided to sort through the gear I had taken. I hoped to reclaim some sense of normalcy. I dug through my backpack, carefully organizing my camping supplies. Then, as I reached the bottom, my fingers brushed against something small and cold. I pulled it out, a smooth gray stone. It looked ordinary, but it felt different. There was an odd chill to it, almost like it was alive. That's when I noticed something. There were inscriptions on the stone, symbols I hadn't seen before. I flipped it over, but it was just smooth on the other side. My mind raced. Had I picked this up somewhere in the forest? I couldn't remember. As I held it, the laughter returned, echoing in my ears like a distant memory meant to unsettle me. Feeling odd, I went to my laptop. I began researching the symbols, hoping for some explanation. My heart raced as I typed. The deeper I dove, the weirder it became. I stumbled upon stories of local folklore, tales of spirits that captivated unsuspecting wanderers. They said these spirits could mimic laughter, calling out from the darkness. Was this stone connected to that? I barely slept that night. Each creak of the house made me jump. I felt an urgency building inside me, a need to return to the forest. I couldn't go on living with that feeling of dread hanging over me. I had to confront whatever it was that I had encountered. So the next weekend, I drove back to the national forest. My heart pounded with every mile. The familiar trees surrounded me, but now they felt ominous. I set up camp again, though I hesitated. Memories flooded back, the laughter, the shadows. I took out the stone and placed it in front of my fire. It seemed to absorb the light, casting eerie shadows on the ground. As night fell, I felt it, the weight of silence pressing down on me. I clutched my flashlight tightly, ready for something to occur. I wanted answers. And then, just as the moon broke through the clouds, I heard it again. The laughter echoed through the trees, clearer now, like it was near. The shadows danced around me, and I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Everything inside me screamed to run, but I sat still, holding my breath, ready for whatever was about to happen. Suddenly, everything shifted. The fire flickered and dimmed, as if the darkness around me was breathing. That's when I saw it. A shape emerging from the woods, its eyes glinting in the firelight. I couldn't move. I was powerless, staring at the unknown. And then it spoke. "What have you brought back?" The voice was low, unnerving. I could hardly comprehend the question. It felt like time stretched, silent moments clawing at my nerves. I knew I should answer, but my mouth felt glued shut. I couldn't take my eyes off the figure. It was hard to make out its shape clearly. It flickered in and out of the shadows, shifting like smoke in the firelight. I could see features, angles and curves that seemed to copy familiar human traits, but something was profoundly wrong.
The eyes, bright and searching, felt like they could see right through me. "What have you brought back?" it repeated, the voice echoing in my mind and mixing with the laughter. It was demanding. It wanted something from me. I finally found my words, if only to break the paralyzing spell of fear. I don't know," I stammered. "I found this." I lifted the stone, my hand trembling. The figure stepped closer, drawn to the stone's glow. I swallowed hard. "I thought it could—" "That belongs to us," it said, cutting me off. I recoiled at the sharpness in its voice, a sound that felt like nails on a chalkboard. "You shouldn't have taken it." In that moment, the laughter rose again, louder, cascading all around me. It seemed to engulf the forest, resonating from all directions. Cold fear gripped my chest. "What do you want?" I finally managed, the question escaping me like a desperate whisper. The uncertainty felt suffocating. Somehow I knew this encounter was only the beginning. The shape stopped, hovering just beyond the reach of my fire. "It's not what we want," it said. "It's about what you must return." What I must return? Confusion tangled with dread inside me. I thought about the accounting I would have to make. Just the feeling of loss sank like a stone in my stomach. I didn't mean to take anything. I just stumbled upon it. "Stumble or not, it matters not," it replied, voice dripping with a condescension that sent a chill through me. "You must bring back what was lost. Meet us where the echoes meet the shadows." Before I could respond, the fire flickered violently and I was enveloped in darkness. I sprinted to grab my flashlight, frantically flipping it on. But the beam shrieked against an empty space. The shape had disappeared, and with it, the laughter faded to a haunting whisper somewhere deep in the woods. My heart raced. I felt the weight of the stone still in my hand, but now it felt heavier, more menacing. I barely registered the sounds of the night returning, the distant rustle of leaves, the chirping of crickets, as panic set in. What had I unleashed? I needed to know what the figure meant. Determined, I took a deep breath, knowing I was already in too deep. I glanced at the glowing stone, its inscriptions now flickering in the dim light. I had to plan. There had to be a way to undo whatever I had done. As I looked back into the forest, feeling its draw, a sense of urgency flooded over me. I couldn't ignore the shadowy message. I had to find where the echoes met the shadows. Whatever awaited me in the woods, I had to face it head on. I had to return. Then I realized I wasn't alone. The laughter was back, creeping steadily closer. I took a step back, heart pounding louder than before. The laughter, now clearer, more distinct, surrounded me like a cold embrace. I shone the flashlight into the darkness, but the beam cut through nothing but shadows. "Hello," I called out, my voice wavering. No answer came, just that sound. Laughter. It was chilling, playful, almost mocking. I could feel my stomach twist into a knot. I was nearly out of time. If that entity wanted something from me, I had to move. I turned towards the deeper part of the woods, convinced the shadows were beckoning. The longer I stood there, the closer the laughter got, and the more it felt like a trap closing in. The stone pulsed in my palm, a subtle warmth contrasting with the cold grip of fear settling over me. Then, against the backdrop of the laughter, I heard a new sound, like rustling leaves. I aimed the flashlight in that direction. For one gut-wrenching moment, I thought I saw a shadow shift, merging with the trees. It felt deliberate. Whatever it was watching me. "Show yourself!" I shouted, surprising myself with how bold I sounded. But deep down, I wished I hadn't. The laughter halted abruptly, replaced with a silence so profound that it rang in my ears. Taking a deep breath, I turned back to my campsite. I had a basic idea of where I could find the echoing shadows. There was a ravine nearby. I remembered it from the map I'd studied earlier. Looking at the stone again, I felt an unsettling sense of duty. I was a mess of confusion. What did I even need to return? I glanced around, noting the flickering campfire that cast ghostly shapes across the surrounding trees. The forest seemed to merge with the darkness, breathing its own secrets. I gathered my things, minimal gear, my phone, that stone, and crept away from the comforting glow of the fire. The path ahead felt hostile, each step heavier than the last. That's when I stumbled onto something, a series of symbols carved into the ground. They were similar to the inscriptions on the stone, glowing faintly. I crouched down, tracing one with my finger. A chill shot up my spine as the symbols began to hum, a low thrum echoing through the air. This was it, the starting point. Whatever fate awaited me lay ahead. I stood up straight, the sense of urgency swelling. I needed to find the ravine. I forced myself to move, but with every step, I felt the ground tremble lightly beneath my feet. Whoever or whatever was in those woods was still there, and I could feel it growing restless. Suddenly, I heard heavy breathing, close enough that I froze. My heart raced anew. I swung my flashlight in that direction, frantic. Who's there? Silence. Then an undeniable whisper. A voice, soft and sinister. You'll never leave. Panic washed over me. I bolted down the path, twisting and turning, the laughter echoing again, now mixed with snarls. I had to reach the ravine. It was my only hope of understanding what I had stumbled into. I pushed forward, the darkness closing in behind me, but that whisper lingered, echoing in my mind like a relentless warning. I sprinted through the underbrush, careful to avoid roots and branches that could trip me. My flashlight flickered dangerously, casting weak light against the dense trees.
The laughter and snarls followed, a twisted orchestra that seemed to grow louder with each frantic step I took. Then I heard it again, the rustling, but this time more deliberate. I paused, breathing heavily. I trained my beam ahead and saw movement where the trees met the ground. Panic clawed at my throat. "Stay back," I yelled, but the words came out more as a plea than a threat. The shadows shifted closer, and just when I thought I couldn't take any more, I saw it. A figure, shapeless and dark, slipping between the trees. My heart thudded like a drum in my ears. I fought against my instinct to retreat, forcing myself to stay rooted to the spot. "Please, what do you want?" My voice trembled, but I needed to show I wasn't giving up. The figure paused, half visible in the beam of my flashlight. It didn't move, but the air around it seemed to change. It felt heavy, saturated with an impression that this thing was far from ordinary. The shadows pooled around it like a cloak. Then, in the quiet, I heard whispers, dozens of voices blending into a soft fog of sound. Each word was indistinguishable, but the tone was unmistakable. They were mocking me. Laughter echoed again, sharper this time, as if it had been amplified. My hands trembled, clenching the flashlight tightly. I knew I had to keep moving. I couldn't stay here, not with those whispers snaking around me. I turned and darted down the narrow path, the ground sloping downward, wild underfoot. The trees thickened, creating a canopy that swallowed the little light left. I cursed under my breath for not sticking to the map more closely. Finally, I reached the edge of the ravine I remembered. The terrain dropped steeply away, and I skidded to a stop, nearly losing my balance. The moonlight spilled down, illuminating a dark creek that wound through the chasm below. I stepped closer, heart racing, trying to steady my breathing. The shadows didn't dare follow me here, not yet. But as I peered into the depths, I noticed something glimmering beneath the water. Leaning forward, I felt the cool night air prickling my skin. The light from my flashlight caught it. A pendant. A pendant glinted back at me, and for a moment the whispers faded. Then a loud crack echoed from behind, snapping branches like thunder. I turned sharply, flashlight aimed, but the beam revealed nothing. The laughter returned, louder, almost triumphant. And then from the depths of the ravine, something rose from the water, long, thin arms, reaching out towards the edge. The whispers grew chaotic, and fear seized me. "Get back," I shouted, but my voice seemed swallowed by the earth. I stumbled back,
the solid ground crumbling beneath me, and caught a glimpse of something terrible, a face emerging, twisted and familiar. It looked like someone I once knew, and yet it was wrong, contorted by dark shadows. I felt bile rise in my throat. This was no mere ghost, no trick of the light.
Whatever was in these woods had a hold on me, and it knew my fears. I had to escape, to find a way back before it was too late. With my instinct kicking in, I turned and ran up the narrow path, the panic surging through my veins. I could hear the water behind me splashing, and a voice calling out in a twisted echo, "Come back, you belong here." As I ran, adrenaline coursing through me, I could almost feel the ground pulse, as if urging me forward toward the dark secrets hidden in the forest. Chapter 2. I didn't know how long I ran. The sound of water splashing behind me faded as I took sharp turns, dodging trees and pretending that I could outpace whatever had risen from that creek. I felt a nagging pain in my side, but pushed it aside. With every step, the whispers echoed in my head, their taunts weaving into the frantic rhythm of my heartbeat. Suddenly, I burst into a clearing. The moon hung high above, brightening the area like a spotlight. I slowed, looking behind me. No dark figures pursuing me, just the stillness of the night. My breath came in gasps, and I fought the urge to collapse. This brief moment of reprieve was fragile. I knew it wouldn't last. I scanned the clearing, hoping to find something, a path, a sign, anything to help me escape. That's when I saw it. At the far edge of the clearing stood an old cabin, its wood gray and weathered, nearly hidden among the trees. Something flickered inside, a faint, rhythmic glow. I hesitated, my instincts screaming to stay far away, but the urge to seek shelter overwhelmed my fear. I made my way toward it, the worn wooden steps creaking underfoot. The whispers intensified, swirling around me like angry wasps. I reached out for the door, my hand shaking. "Please, just let this be a safe place," I muttered to myself, pushing the door open. The interior was dimly lit, filled with dust and the smell of mildew. Light shone from a single lantern hanging from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Old furniture lay scattered, an overturned chair, an empty table, and a stack of yellowed newspapers. The headlines were nonsensical, though one caught my eye, vanished without a trace. My stomach churned. As I stepped inside, I felt a sudden chill. The whispers from outside morphed into a low hum that seemed to vibrate off the walls. I turned, half expecting to see something lurking in the corner. "Get a grip," I whispered, shaking my head. But my heart sank further when the door swung shut behind me, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. I scanned the room frantically, as if something would jump out at me. The corner held a small writing desk, piled with dusty journals. My curiosity urged me to take a peek. I moved closer, each step echoing against the cabin's aged wood. Flipping open the nearest journal, I read the scrawled handwriting. It described the aftermath of a camping trip gone wrong.
Chilling entries detailed how a group of friends went hiking, and one by one they began to disappear. A sense of dread washed over me as I continued reading. They had heard whispers, too. They spoke of shadows stalking them at night, and strange figures watching from the trees. Then it hit me. I wasn't the first to encounter this horror. A sickening thought crept in. I might not be the last. Just as I processed this, I heard it again, the unmistakable sound of laughter creeping into the cabin, chilling my blood. Someone, or something, was trying to get in. I needed to hide, and fast. Spinning around, I noticed a trap door beneath the writing desk. My heart raced as I shoved aside the journals, pulling it open. The darkness below seemed to breathe, inviting me in like a hidden crypt. I had no choice. As I climbed down, shadows danced at the edges of my vision. I could still hear the laughter mixing with the whispers. It was getting closer. I closed the trapdoor above me just as the ominous sounds grew louder. My pulse hammered in my ears. I was trapped, but at least I was hidden, at least for now. That's when I felt it. Something stirred in the dark below, and I wasn't alone. Chapter 3. The darkness engulfed me, wrapping around my body like a heavy cloak. I held my breath, listening intently. The laughter and whispers had receded, but still echoed in my mind. I extended a hand in front of me, trying to feel my way in the stifling dark. My fingers brushed against something cold and solid. Panic flared in my chest. I quickly pulled my hand back, not wanting to confront whatever was down here with me.
The chill that hung in the air seeped into my bones, and I could hear the faintest sound, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like nails drumming against wood. It grew louder, more assured, sending shivers down my spine. "Hello," I whispered, my voice breaking slightly. I didn't want to sound weak, yet every logical instinct urged me to flee. No response came, only deeper silence. I waited, hoping to hear something that would guide me. The sound stopped, and I strained to listen. That's when I felt it again, a shift in the darkness, a presence close by. The shadows shifted against the walls, and I couldn't tell if I was imagining it or if something was really moving. My heart raced, thudding loudly in my chest. I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage I had. I needed to get out of here. It was a trapdoor, so surely there had to be a way up. I felt around for the edge, my fingers finally brushing against the cold wooden frame. But before I could grasp it, I heard that laughter again, clearer this time. It was not just laughter, it was the laughter of children, sweet at first, but there was an edge to it, something sinister lurking beneath. "What do you want?" I called into the darkness, my voice steadier this time. The laughter stopped abruptly, and the silence that followed was deafening.
I felt as if I was being watched, heartsick dread pooling in my stomach. Then, a small, flickering light appeared at the far end of the basement, an ethereal glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. My pulse quickened with both fear and fascination. I had to see what it was. Cautiously, I crept toward the light, staying low to the ground. As I approached, I realized it came from an old lantern resting on a stone pedestal. The lantern was ornate, covered in dusty cobwebs, yet it flickered as if it were alive. My hand reached out instinctively, and I felt the warmth radiating from it. That's when I noticed something darker behind it, shadows weaving and melding into human shapes. I stepped back, my breath catching. The outlines seemed to twitch and writhe, uncertain yet hungry. "Get away from it," a voice hissed from the shadows. It was weak, faint, yet filled with urgency. I turned, looking for the source. A figure emerged from the darkness, stumbling towards me. It was a young girl, her eyes wide with fear. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "You have to leave now," she cried, her voice rising in desperation. Who are you?" I stammered, backing away toward the trapdoor. The laughter returned, louder and more frantic, echoing through the basement. The girl pointed toward the glimmering lantern. "They'll come for you. You don't belong here." I felt the air grow thick, pressing down on me. I needed an exit. I had to get out. Then everything went dark. The lantern flickered violently before going out completely. In the pitch black, I could hear the whispers returning, growing louder, more frantic. I was not alone. Something was coming for me. Chapter 4. I stumbled backward, my hands brushing against the rough stone wall behind me. My pulse raced, and I fought against the panic trying to take hold. I couldn't see anything, not even my own hands in front of my face. Suddenly, I heard a soft giggle, like the tinkling of wind chimes. It floated through the darkness, drawing closer. I pressed my back against the wall, desperately searching for the trapdoor. My hands fumbled over the cold stone, still slick with moisture, but it was too dark to make sense of what was around me. "Get away from it." The girl's voice echoed again, stronger now as if she were next to me. I could still feel her fear pressing against my chest. She had warned me. I had to get out. An instinct kicked in. I dropped to my knees and started groping along the floor. The laughter returned, twisting into shrieks of delight that sent chills racing down my spine. The air felt thicker, as if the room were closing in, the shadows crawling towards me with every second. I didn't want to look back, but my curiosity drove me to turn my head. That's when I saw it, a faint outline, a figure rising from the darkness. It wasn't just one, there were more, their shapes grotesque, disappearing into the gloom, and then reforming like smoke. I gasped, my heart pounding even faster now.
"Leave before they come," the girl screamed. I pressed harder against the floor, my fingers trailing over an unexpected wooden edge. The trapdoor. I grasped it, feeling the rough texture beneath my hands. With everything I had, I heaved it open. A rush of stale air met my face as I peered into the darkness below, but I didn't hesitate. I scrambled toward the opening, but just as I pulled myself halfway through, a cold, clammy hand grasped my ankle, yanking me back. "No!" I shouted, kicking wildly. The hold was too strong, drawing me back into the shadows. The laughter morphed into angry shouts, voices clamoring for me, demanding I stay. I twisted, flailing my other leg against the darkness. "Let go of me!" I fought harder, flinging myself side to side until I felt my foot slip from their grasp. I tore free with a sudden lurch, tumbling forward into the small passageway leading up. I crawled with frantic urgency, not daring to look back. I could hear the figures hissing now, a cacophony of whispers that spoke my name in unison, like a twisted lullaby that chilled me to the bone. I emerged into the moisture-laden air of the basement, panting and bewildered. I scrambled to my feet, racing toward the nearest exit. But just as I reached the stairs, I turned back, hesitating. The girl had called out to me, "You have to help us." My breath caught, a shard of guilt slicing through my fear. "What do you mean?" I shouted back, overwhelmed by the urgency of the moment. "If you leave, it'll be too late," she pleaded. I looked down the dark passageway and felt torn. I wanted to escape, but what would happen if I just ran? Just then, I heard a new sound, the creaking of the trapdoor behind me, slowly sliding shut. I had to choose. Chapter 5. The whispers faded, but the weight of the girl's words hung heavy in the air. I took a hesitant step back, heart racing. What did she mean by too late? My mind spun with countless possibilities, each one worse than the last. I glanced over my shoulder. The trapdoor was nearly closed, glimmers of light slipping away. I could feel that pull, a deep-seated urge to flee. But I couldn't ignore her plea. Someone or something was trapped down there, and I could be the key to freeing them. "Wait," I shouted, but my voice wavered, filled with doubt. The darkness seemed to draw me back, tangible and insistent. I turned again, caught between desire and dread. The shadows sighed, shifting as if they were alive. I took a deep breath and retraced my steps toward the narrow passage. I could still feel the chill of that hand on my ankle, the shrieks echoing in my head. But what if I was their only hope? "Please." The girl's voice trembled through the dark. I crawled back to the edge of the trapdoor. "Tell me how to help you." Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound from deeper within, followed by a low growl. My blood ran cold. Whatever was down there didn't want to be found, and it was coming for me. "I'll help you, I promise," I stammered, the fear gripping me again. My mind raced. What could I do? I needed more information. "I'm trapped," she sobbed, her voice low. "They won't let me go. You have to find the source. The mirror. It's the key." "The mirror?" I repeated, glancing around. Panic seeped back in. What mirror? Was there another hidden space? But before I could ask, the growl grew louder, more menacing. The shadows twisted, moonlight spilling through the cracks, revealing the outlines of figures darting just out of sight. They were circling, closing in. I scrambled back to the stairs, sheer instinct kicking in. "Please don't leave," the girl cried. As I reached the top of the stairs, I hesitated a moment longer. "Where is the mirror?" I yelled, hoping to grasp something solid in this terrifying chaos. "Find the old cabin at the forest's edge," she screamed. "It's your only chance." Though her voice faded, I was left with a mixture of dread and determination. I had to get out, but now I had a plan. I burst out of the basement, the fresh air hitting me like a wave. But as I stumbled into the twilight outside, a pit formed in my stomach. The night was alive with sounds, whispers that threatened to pull me back. The urge to run surged, but I forced myself to stop. I had to find this old cabin. It might hold the answers I needed. With the girl's voice still echoing in my mind, I turned and raced into the night, searching for the forest, where the shadows had secrets of my own. And then, with a chill that shot down my spine, I heard footsteps behind me. I wasn't alone. I ran, my breath coming in short gasps as the shadowy figures closed in behind me. The whispers had grown louder, more frantic, swirling like a tempest in my mind. The door to the basement slammed shut, and I barely registered the sound over the pounding of my heart. All that mattered was escaping, finding that old cabin at the forest's edge, the girl's desperate words repeating in my mind like a mantra. Thick branches clawed at my skin as I careened deeper into the forest, every rustle behind me fueling my panic. I stumbled, nearly falling into a gnarled root before righting myself. I needed to keep going. I needed to find the cabin. The laughter echoed faintly behind me, taunting, urging me to turn back. I forced my attention forward, quickening my pace. My feet pounded against the foliage, but all the while I felt an unseen presence lurking just behind. I could almost hear them breathing, coiling behind me like a shadow, waiting for the moment I would falter. Suddenly, the trees parted, and there it was, the old cabin the girl had mentioned, sagging and worn at the forest's edge. Relief surged through me, nearly drowning out the fear clawing at my insides. I rushed toward it, the door creaking in anticipation as I pried it open. I stepped inside, and a rush of stale air met me. tainted with a memory of what lay within.
The interior was dimly lit, beams of moonlight piercing through the cracked windows like fingers searching for truth. Dust motes danced in the air, but something tugged at my attention, a glint of silver jutting from the shadows in the far corner. I edged closer, my heart pounding. There, partially buried beneath debris, was a small hand mirror, its frame ornate, yet tarnished with age. Hesitating, I reached for it. My fingers brushed the cool glass, and a pulse of energy rushed through me. I could feel it, the laughter, angry and loud, erupting around me. The shadows stirred, restless at my invasion. I gripped the mirror tightly, instincts telling me it was the key. "Show me," I shouted, hoping against hope the object could illuminate the truth. As if in response, the air thickened, the atmosphere crackling with energy. The essence of what I had experienced enveloped me. Suddenly, reflections of the past shimmered across the surface, swirling into a vision. I saw campers, much like me, laughing under the trees, faces alive with joy. Then, the shadows curled around them, transforming joy into panic. They scattered, echoes of their laughter twisting into screams. A dark figure loomed, beckoning as one by one they vanished. Panic seized my heart, and I stumbled back. The stories had been true. I wasn't the first. Yet what struck me most was the last reflection that danced across the mirror, a familiar face looking right back at me from behind the shadows, twisted in torment. It was her, the girl. "Help us!" she cried again, the fear in her eyes piercing through the barrier of the mirror. I felt resolve settle in my heart. I had to find a way to help her, to face whatever lingered in the dark. The laughter echoed again, ringing in my ears, but I couldn't focus on that. Surrounding me were hints of what I needed, a connection between the forest, the spirits, and the laughter that enveloped them. With shaky hands, I breathed deep and drew the mirror close. "I will break this. I will set you free," I declared to the vision. The laughter swelled, pressing against my eardrums, overwhelming me. "Do it now," the figure urged. Collecting my courage, I turned, the malicious shadows closing in as I prepared to break the glass. Before I could move, the door burst open, and the shadows rushed inside with a violent force. I stumbled back, feeling the coldness seep into my bones as they swirled around me, threatening to pull me into their abyss. Caught between fear and determination, I threw the mirror against the ground. It shattered, pieces glinting in the moonlight as I felt the shadows disintegrate, swirling like smoke in the wind. The laughter morphed into a symphony of cries, mingling with whispers of gratitude. But before anything could solidify in that moment of triumph, the darkness flickered, and I was engulfed in shimmering light. I could make out the terrified faces of the campers, their eyes pleading, intertwining with the girl's gaze.
Just as suddenly, everything faded, delicate shadows mingling back into silence. In the aftermath, I found myself alone in the clearing. The cottage stood empty, the laughter vanishing into the trees. I breathed heavily, pulsing energy still tinged with fear and triumph. But as I stood there, absorbing the weight of finality, I couldn't shake the sheer uncertainty left in its wake. The forest was alive again, a postcard of tranquility, but I couldn't shake the feeling that pieces of me lingered behind, entangled among those shadows. I was free, yes, but what had I truly returned to? Later that night, as I lay in my bed, staring into the dark ceiling, I couldn't shake the echoes of the laughter and the girl's fading voice. A shiver ran down my spine. I couldn't tell if it had been a dream, a memory, or reality. What had I truly released? And whatever happened to her, to those shadows, would forever remain a mystery, a question left unanswered in the depths of the forest. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if the laughter still watches from those trees, if the little girl is safe, or if the darkness had merely let me go. But mostly, I try not to think about